I'm seizing the moment. I've got a rare couple of hours when my kids are out, so I'm going to try and get out these videos while they're fresh in my mind. Okay, so I've overlaid the Tree of Life from the Kabbalah diagram with over the top of the temple. Now, this is not something I've seen done anywhere else. I believe this has just come to me through inspiration, so I'm not claiming that it is doctrine. You can make up your own mind about that. But okay, so if we're starting, I've got the chakras here as sort of reference point to see how each relates to the energy centers as we move up to the Holy of Holies, or unity, complete unity consciousness. So if we're starting down the bottom, my last video I was talking about how the brazen altar, the sacrificing of the animals, represented the sacrificing of the animal passion in order to, begin this journey of sacred union. Now, I feel like I want to do a whole video on this idea in itself, because I think that the sacrificing of the animals might have been part of what led the ancients, the Hebrews, to start missing the mark, because it's not about destroying passion, it's not about suppressing it, it's not about denial of our animal nature, but it is about learning to become the master. Okay, so if you think about that scripture where it talks about bridling your passions that you may be filled with love. I think it's in the Book of Mormon, so Mormons will know what I'm referring to. Bridling your passions that you may be filled with love. The bridle gives you a really good metaphor for this idea. So if you imagine that our emotions and our impulses and our desires are like a horse. If we're trying to stay seated on a horse without any reins or bridle in order that, to be able to control it, we're most likely to be continuously thrown off, especially when it starts galloping, right? So the idea is that the mastery which we can have because of the fact that we have intelligence and we are able to, and we have a mind, we're able to self-observe, become self-aware. So that's what we have different to animals. And so because we have that ability, that God-given ability to think and to become, to come from that higher space towards our passions, desires, and instincts, we can actually learn to channel them. So it's about channeling, not so much, I did use the word killing before, but that was certainly the metaphor that they were going for with the sacrificing of the animals. But I think possibly that's why Jesus did away with the sacrificing of animals, because we all know, that he claimed he was the great and last sacrifice. But I think he really opened the door to a new understanding that it's not that our animal nature is inherently evil. It's just that if left ungoverned by our higher self, that it can lead to destruction. So the idea is that these lower parts, so we've got the lava, which in the female, so this corresponds with the clitoris in the female anatomy. Clitoris. I've forgotten the spelling. Then we've got the urethra, which of course was also along the lines of cleansing ourselves of impurities. So that's what the kidneys, they cleanse us, our bodies of physical impurities. So the idea is that both men and women, but if we're just talking about the metaphor of the man approaching the woman, would be subduing, not suppressing, but becoming the master of his animal nature. So sacrificing the rampant passion, I guess, if you want to say. cleansing ourselves of physical impurities so that we can be worthy to enter into the holy place. So for a man, that would be him proving his emotional, spiritual, physical worthiness to be able to enter the holy place of the inner space of the female. All right, so then we have this entrance way here corresponding with the sacral chakra, where you have the polarization of the genders. So despite all of the ongoing debate about the nature of gender in our society today, on the biological level, we have two genders. We have male and female, and we are polarized for a reason. And I wouldn't mind drawing a little diagram, actually. Perhaps I can draw it over the top. So if we can imagine, this is a really good metaphor actually, that this is a battery. Okay. And we've got the positive end and the negative end. Or the other way around, negative, positive. We're going to do that as the masculine side and the feminine side. So if you've got a battery, the two, this polarization, they're still connected in one thing. So the battery's got two ends. So that's the same as like the man and the woman. They come together in their polarity. So full masculine with the full feminine come together like a battery. But of course, the idea is we're trying to light up this system, right? So in that sense, both the man and the woman need to be connected, not just together, but to their divine essence as well, to God, if you like. And when you've got this complete system, so imagine that these are wires connecting to this light bulb up here. When there's a complete system, then you'll have enlightenment, right? You've got to have the polarity down here to create the current, to create the flow. What's very interesting to me is that, when they discovered electricity, for about 150 years, they believed that the current, the charge, moved around in a direction from positive to negative, which seems like a very masculine view of the world. Like it's the positive energy which is moving to the the feminine end and giving energy to the feminine. But it's very interesting that then they later discovered, after about 150 years, that the current actually flows in the opposite direction. Because electrons are negatively charged, and so they are attracted to the positive pole, and so the current actually flows from the negative to the positive. So, interesting food for thought. But beyond that, for a long time, they also believed that it was the current flowing through the wires that generated the power, right? That's what gave, maybe most people still think that. But I watched a few videos on the subject just to make sure I wasn't just saying crazy things. And it's what actually happens is that when you have this complete circuit, it generates this energy field. And the energy field gets bigger and it's also it's an electromagnetic field, right? That's actually on the outside and around the all of the components of this system. And it's the field that actually generates the light. It's the field that actually generates the electricity. It passes it to the light bulb. So you can have wires that are like hundreds of thousands of kilometers long, which should mean that there was like a delay before the light bulb lit up, to give time for the current to pass all the way through the circuit. But in fact, when you turn on the switch, the light bulb lights up almost immediately because of this field. It's the field that is transferring the energy to the light bulb. But the system has to be connected. So there's so much we can draw from this, metaphorically. The idea that we can't just be connected to the masculine end of the divine. We also have to have an understanding of the divine feminine in order for that circuit to be complete. I'll talk in much greater detail some other time about exactly what is the divine feminine in the highest sense. But for the moment, I just got to get through talking through this temple. So we've got the metaphor. Okay, so entering the gate, entering the sacred space of the inner space of the female, the vagina. Now the first thing you come across is the menorah on one side and the table of shewbread. Now, in terms of the tree of life metaphors, you've got victory and splendor. On this side, you've got the solar plexus. So this is our energy to act. The menorah here, you've got this is your center of power, your center of light, center of energy. Sort of very masculine and feminine idea as well. You got the shoe bread, the loaf. I guess without trying to be crude, we've got the lingam or the penis of the male. Good, the metaphor of the bread there coming inside the sacred inner space of the female. Then we have the next point, which corresponds to the heart chakra in the Eastern system, is the altar of incense, which relates to, and then in the tree of life relates to, the altar of incense is specifically about prayer, communion. In the tree of life, it's compassion, beauty, harmony, which correlates very nicely with the heart chakra. So this, to me, in terms of a sacred union practice, it means that when you get to this point where you've already, you've got penetration happening, that you don't want to start getting too caught up in the excitement of things, but you want to come back to a place of so almost meditative contemplation and quietness and prayer in order to, keep the animal passions sort of under control, and maintain connection with your divine center. So that's a good clue there about how to move forward with this process. The next thing, we've got the veil. We've got the two sides of the veil corresponding nicely to those two Sephirot in the tree of life. We've got Geburah and Chesed, which is basically grace and judgment, or love and power. So that they relate nicely to the throat chakra, because how do we communicate judgment? How do we communicate love? How do we communicate mercy? How do we communicate power? Mostly through what we articulate, the way we're expressing ourselves in the world. And obviously both sides need to balance each other in order for our expression to reflect truth and reality and love. So moving on into the Holy of Holies, we have here the Ark of the Covenant. Can't really see it since I've scribbled over it so much. Okay, so this part absolutely fascinates me. This video is getting long again too. Maybe I should... No, I'll keep going, and if it cuts out, because my phone doesn't let me record for too long, we'll just make another one. All right, so we've got on top of the Ark of the Covenant, we've got the two cherubim. Again, this is representative of the masculine and the feminine coming together in holy union. Now, this is the sacred space. This is the Holy of Holies. So when their energies at this level are fusing together, if you like, because the wings of the two cherubim were actually touching, which means that on that high plane of energetic plane, the energies of the man and the woman are coming together. Now, when you're managing to connect on all of these levels, the man and the woman, and when you finally manage to, connect inside of yourself and then outwardly with your partner, this is when you can gain access to that unity, that Christ consciousness. This is when you can really find that space inside of yourself. And what's very interesting is that inside the Ark of the Covenant, we find the 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments. So that's a beautiful little microcosm of the whole. So we see that this whole system is in fact found within that highest energy center, which is unity consciousness. It's all of these energies which are divided into their different vibrational levels, all gathered up into one, into the white crown of unity consciousness. So the 10 Commandments actually have a much deeper significance spiritually, and they do also relate specifically to each of the 10 sephirot of the Tree of Life. And I'll have to do another video on how that actually works in practice. They're not just to be taken at face value as we usually do. There's always levels and layers of understanding. So within the Ark of the Covenant, we find that space of darkness, that holy chamber, which relates to the fruit of the Tree of Life, which is unity consciousness, which is also representative of the original space of creation, which is, believe it or not, the darkness of the void, the feminine womb. So obviously the highest level of the Tree of Life relates to the womb, the female womb, wherein life forms and begins before it expresses outwards into manifest reality and consciousness. So that's why the female uterus looks like a tree with branches, and this is where life begins, in the female womb. So the masculine can only penetrate so far. Beyond that is the unconsciousness of the void. So separation consciousness can only go to a certain point. And then pure unity consciousness is actually only to be found in the darkness of the void. Anyway, I'm probably going a little bit too far and a little bit too deep. But the point being, my entire point, of course, is that the temple rites and rituals were all designed to teach the principle of sacred union in its purity through metaphor and symbol, but that most of those meanings have been lost over time, whether through design, well, absolutely through design, because, of course, all things are the way they should be and happen as they should, and there has been purpose behind the loss of this information for the masses, and there is purpose behind the fact that this information is now returning to humankind at this very critical juncture where the polarity is becoming very great. And there is always the greatest polarity before the collapse back into union. So we don't need to worry, but we do need to learn and practice, and I'll do more videos in order to help people and myself with this process as I gain more information. So thanks for watching.